Yes, how good is it that every day we can play that little stinger because it means that there's rugby league news about it. Tom Trbojevic has re-signed with Manly. No real surprise here. The surprising element of this deal, it's only a 12-month extension. So he was off contract at the end of 2026. Would have hit the market November 1, which he was never going to play against Manly. So that was irrelevant. Flirted with the Super League. But, the fact of this deal is at the moment he's on about $1.25 million, Tom Trbojevic. That deal drops significantly next year under $1 million in 2027, under that $1 million mark, so around that $950. I like the fact that it's 12 months because it gives Tom an opportunity to show, no, I am a $1.2 million player.
And does that $1.2 million player play nearly every round of football? Is that why the dollars have dropped, Michael? Is that why there's an understanding of why aren't they paying Tom? And obviously, as you said, the fact that Jake and Tom were they on a 6-year deal? I think wasn't it originally? Is that what it was? Long-term deal. So I would think, and I remember people telling me, Tom Trbojevic will be one of our future immortals if he's able to stay injury free.
Yeah,
and that's probably been the hard part over the last period of time is not playing 24, 23, 22 games of football on a regular occurrence. So, and as you said, though, he doesn't want to play against Manly. So what will happen? So when the off-contract will be, new TV deal, you think would be arranged and sorted? So that figure, I think there'll be more players. If the TV rights, do you think it'll grow significantly? It'll grow a little?
I'd say the cap at the moment sits around 11, 12 million. I think we'll have a cap of 15 mil.
So that means there's probably there could be three-ish players over the $1 million mark at every club?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Something like that, where at the moment you're probably thinking if it's a very good roster, there's probably one just above it and around the $950 to $1 million market.
Yep. And
if you have a roster that's not as strong, you've probably got someone 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 sometimes.
Yes. Well, Newcastle have Kalen on, I think, 1.4 and no other $1 million player. Well, now they will next year.
Yes.
But, for the last couple of years,
that's the hard part. So as you said, look, Manly fans will be happy. Tom will be happy. He's certainly staying there for a period of time. As you said, hopefully he can justify that he's worth over that $1 million mark, and that might be through getting a lot of games. New combination to develop with Jamal Fogarty also coming to the Manly football side.
This is what Tom had to say.
Hey guys, just reaching out to let you know that I'm really excited to extend my stay for a further year. It's Manly's a big part of my life, and I love this club, and it's great that I'm going to be here for the next 2 seasons. So I'm super keen, and I'm really ready to get back into training shortly and get out there in 2026 and hopefully play some good footy. Do you proud, because I'm really excited about what this club can do in the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, let's break down this Manly roster. Obviously, for those that missed it, you've joined the coaching staff.
Well, I'm glad that Tom's decided to stick around, mate.
Because of you?
Yeah.
Is this a coincidence?
When I joined Canterbury,
dominoes.
When I said I'm going to Canterbury, the following Wednesday, Sonny Bill Williams is on a plane to Europe.
Good to see it's the other way this time.
I was like, how good's this? I'll get to play with Sonny. I can't wait. And then they're like, no, he's leaving. I was like, oh, what do you mean? Yeah, he's going to another code.
Yes.
So, yeah, but this time it's changed. Now Tom's made a decision to stay, so it's not swinging door moments.
Let's take a look at this roster. So the players that Manly have got long term, Homoli Okolawatu, who I mentioned yesterday as a potential roughie, an outsider for the captaincy to replace Daly Cherry Evans, Ethan Bullimore, Jason Saab, Kobe Hetherington, Taniela Paseka, all to 2029. David Mawali, who joins the club in 2027, is contracted to the end of 2029, and Jamal Fogarty to 2028. So they've got that nucleus there of players that have been locked in long term. Players off contract come November 1, and there's some significant names here. You've got Jake Simpkin, Jake Trbojevic.
Yep.
Lockie Croker's off contract, but Lockie Croker will retire. He won't be at the club next season. He's obviously had those ongoing concussion issues, so his time will come to an end. Nathan Brown, and the real interesting one for me is Tolakula.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's the great find. I think Tom's probably a little bit like Jake, isn't he? I don't think Jake leaves Manly, does he, and plays against Manly?
No, they're at different stages of their career still, because Tom can still command top dollar too.
Yeah.
Right? I think Jake's value has dipped significantly compared to his current deal.
Which is fair enough. Which is, as you said, I thought it was a 6-year deal. I think it was something like that. And
it was a long.
And again,
deal.
Jake's obviously had a couple of those head knocks as well and bits and pieces and missing some games. But as you said, Cole would be the big one that you got to try and re-sign. Hopewadi, Cole, you would think, those long-term signings. That's the nucleus of a pretty good side. That's strong forwards, strong backs, good halfback. Tom's now that fullback. Then obviously depending on the number of players come through. I think David Mwali can become one of the better props in the game.
Yeah.
He showed signs of it, bits and pieces, and then unfortunately, again, injuries can stop someone's development. He's a player that's unfortunately just had a few injuries every time he starts looking like he's finding some good form and hits a bit of an injury run and then has to work his way back into the game.
Well, very rarely. He's 22. He's played 70 first-grade games. Very rarely do you get a 22-year-old
front rower.
Yeah,
so
on your books.
So that tough development he's had as a young kid, that's why I think he's a player on the improve and a representative player in the future because of that development and playing so many games at such a young age and handling it well.
Ruben Garrick's the other one that's off contract for Manly, and he's obviously indicated to the club that he's going to go to November 1. They put an extension to him, which he's sort of knocked back. He's put on hold, or he said he wants to consider other offers. Ruben Garrick, I think it's an interesting one with Ruben Garrick because he's held such significant value at Manly for the past couple of seasons because he was the understudy to Tom Trbojevic.
Yes.
Now that's Lehigh Hopewadi.
Yes.
And then Kohler would probably be next. In terms of if they had to find a third fullback. Does
every club have a little bit of luxury and freedom this year, knowing that there's no Perth contracts and no talking points yet? Like there's no franchise for Perth yet created. So is this time next year a nightmare for clubs?
Well, November 1, Perth can sign blokes.
Yeah, I know, but who's going to make the decisions to go to Perth without knowing what's at Perth?
Someone will. They will. Yeah, of course they will, because they've got to build a squad. I think they said they want to have 10 signatures before Christmas. So they'll have blokes signed because they'll have to offer them more money.
So the original ones, the first couple that go will probably get above what they think they're entitled to get at their current club to start the signing for other clubs.
Why else would you go?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Unless you've got a family connection with Western Australia, which not a lot of NRL players do.
No, but as you said, and you might be that age where you go, you know what, I'm going to go and live in Perth, which when the guys that come from the Western Reds to the Melbourne Storm absolutely loved it. And, I think the travel is going to be a difficult thing for the Perth Bears. I think that's, going to Origin in Perth this year and realising that the distance of travel bits and pieces, I don't know how they work out the draw and how they help them to stay in Sydney for 2 weeks in a row on some occasions. But the franchise is going to be set up well. The Perth government's put some money into it. They love their rugby league over there. And just the thing would be, if you can go, I'm going to get a 3 or 4 year deal here, where my club is currently offering me 2 years, You're right. That's the person they're going to get. And they've had the big scalps originally. Payne Haas was on that radar. Cam Munster was on that radar. Well, Munster's already confirmed he's not going to Perth.
Yeah, because of Jonah Pezzett.
Yes, that's right. Well, so and also Melbourne's helpful that they have been able to stay and been connected to Melbourne, knowing that Pezzett's gone, so Melbourne can keep Cam Munster till he's ready to retire. And I think that obviously the Melbourne side would love to keep him as a one-club player, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You'd assume so. You think he now finishes as a one-club player. I thought that Perth were going to come in red hot for him, but because of the Jonah Pezzett situation, that's not going to happen. Yes, David Fifita looks like he's headed for the Gold Coast exit. Our man David Riccio has this story on the Daily Telegraph website now. He's only 25 still, David Fifita. And I found the real interesting part of the story was the Titans were going to chip in $500 million still?
Yeah, that's right. He's contracted, isn't he, for 26, 27 at the Titans. And the fact that the Titans are willing to contribute such a large figure for him to go to South Sydney, one means that they're effectively happy for Dave Fifita to leave the Titans, but also happy to, if I think about that, it's also thinking about you're going to pay money for someone else to play at another club.
Yeah.
So they must be thinking that's a saving for them on the figure that they're not having to pay to keep Dave Fifita at the club. New coach Justin Holbrook obviously has to come in and, Josh Hannay has to come in and make some changes and put his own style on it, his own way of coaching. So Josh Hannay would have to be a big part of this decision to let Dave Fifita go. But it's a significant figure to be contributing in it to South Sydney. And Wayne, if anyone, like Wayne is just so good at getting people fit, making sure their off-field is happiness. They train hard and you get the best out of them. Because Dave Fifita, at moments in a football game, can do things that are very, very special.
Let's have a closer look at this South Sydney forward pack, mate. So You've got Cam Murray at lock.
Yep.
David Fifita on one edge. Right, and then you've either got Jai Arrow or Keon Kolomatangi, depending how you want to play on another edge, I'd say.
Yeah, try it. And you got,
and then the other one will be in the middle with Tavita Totola, and then you've got still as part of the squad. David Moali's still contracted for next year, although this may see him shift to Manly a year early. Lockie Hubner was really good for him this year. Brandon Smith. As that number 9 with Mamazelis, Ewan Aitken. What do you make of that South Sydney forward pack?
Well, as you said, Dave Fifita is that special player, isn't he? Different to that. Junior Totola, unfortunately, had lots of injuries, bits and pieces. Jai Arrow's a hard worker, as you said. Cam Murray's missed a whole season of football. Like, that's the heartache of what he's coming back from. So is he going to be underdone for all of next year as well?
Tallis Duncan's the other one.
Duncan as well. As you said, Dave Moali's there at the moment, but might move on. What do they do with Brandon Smith? Like, does he become a 13 off the bench? Does he become a dummy half, then play his second stint at 13? Does Mamazulis become the starting dummy half off the bench? Brandon Smith gets the first 25 minutes done, and then he becomes that dummy half for the rest of the game?
I think he either starts... I think he's got to go back to the way he played in Melbourne. So he starts the game at 9 and then goes back to 13.
Goes back to being just powerful runner of the ball.
But they've also got Cam Murray who plays 80 minutes, and I feel it's really weird the way. So Cam Murray has played a little bit on the edge. I think he's an elite middle, right? You've got Kolomatangi who's playing for Australia at the moment, who I still think is a really, really elite top end edge player, but he's done so good in the middle.
That's right.
Jai Arrow is definitely a middle player. Although he's played on the edge, he's been sort of the last man standing for South the last few years. But I feel like he plays his best footy in the middle.
What do they just work out who ball playing 13, similar style to what the South Sydney side's done for a long time? Wayne keeps it pretty simple with structure and bits and pieces, good completion rate, discipline, and kicking game. So the fact they've got 3 guys or 4 guys now that can play this exact same role, that means they can't transfer him and go. If Kolomatangi has to play back row, that takes half of the catches off him because he becomes a whole running back rower. Jai Arrow probably becomes a front rower, which means that's a pretty small forward pack. Yeah,
well, if you've got Tavita Totola there as well, he's probably that adds that size in the middle for him.
I reckon too, the way the game is going, it's the big guys are struggling to play the game. So the really, really big guys, Nelson Asafa-Solomona probably is the last really big guy because he's also fit, but he's also struggling with the ability to not make head knocks with his shoulder. But the fact that the game is so fast, the fact that there's more 60 goes now, more live ball, more ball in play, it's getting to a mobile stage where, yes, these guys you're talking about, South Sydney forwards, are still powerful enough to make break tackles, make line breaks, play the balls, but also athletic enough to play big minutes. If a player gets injured, you lose interchange rotation, you've got to stay there for longer minutes. It's becoming just a fast, hard game of football now continuously. And again, the competition depth means every week's a hard week. There used to probably be a few weeks where you could get off to a good start and ease your way through a little bit. There's no easy games anymore.
Yeah.
There's 20 or 24 really hard games where on any day anyone can win a game of football.
Do you see that as a top 8 roster, South Sydney, next year?
Well, they have to rebuild, don't they? They have to become a top 8 roster. If you think about their best back line as well. So you got,
Jai Gray's got to play fullback, right, for mine. You got to shift Latrell out of full. So
Latrell plays left centre, then that means Jack Whiten plays where? So I feel like they've made some choices about people, but didn't think about the outcome of the team.
Well, I think they thought that by now. So the plan was originally for Jack Whiten to play centre, then transition to 5'8" to replace Cody Walker.
Cody's there next year.
Cody's there next year.
So they've got a roadblock of if Jai Gray, Latrell has to play fullback or Jack Whiten has to play out of position. But Latrell can only play left centre, can't he?
Can Jack play right centre?
I think Jack could play right centre. Jack's when he was at his best, probably at the Canberra Raiders, he's a runner of the football.
Yeah.
So and again,
and then you'd shift Campbell Graham to a wing though.
But Campbell Graham's probably just a good centre. I don't know if he'd be a good winger. And then you got Alex Johnson. Does Alex Johnson break the record next year?
Yeah. He does. You don't think so?
I hope he does.
Yeah, he does.
We on Alex Johnson watch from round 1 onwards.
Yeah. We're already talking about it now. So yeah, he'll break the record. Yeah, he'll break the record for sure.
Does Jamie Humphries become a long-term lock there at the club?
Not a lock. Nah, Cam Murray's a lock there. Hey, Jamie Humphries, best bet. I don't think he's an NRL week in, week out half. He's a bench utility, but they lose that role because of Brandon Smith now. So who's their starting halfback? I thought they probably looked the best when Jaden Sullivan was there.
Jaden Sullivan, Ashton Ward was pretty good in some moments at the end of the year.
Decent team on paper.
It's not a bad.
Right, when you look at the names like that you've rattled off and you put it down and you potentially build a 17 here, but it's like, how's this going to translate on the field?
And there's a coach that knows. The coach has got an idea of how to do this.
Is he the best paper to field coach we've ever had?
the deep video sessions, deep understanding. No, Wayne, just train hard, boys, and keep it simple.
Yep.
But you're right though. And South Sydney went through that period there where they were on the verge of winning competitions. Now they're at that whole rebuild again.
Yeah. They played a grand final, 3 or 4 prelims in a row. Like
that's right.
And you'd say the current crop of players would rue the opportunity, like Cody Walker, like Damien Cook when he was there, not to have won a premiership with that squad that they've had. It's probably been a missed opportunity for them. Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree. But that's the competition's so hard to win, as you said. It's hard to win. You've got to have everything go to plan. You've got to have no off-field dramas. You've got to have no injuries at the right time of year, player happiness. Maybe if you look back at the decision South Sydney also made to move Adam Reynolds on, what was that, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
4 years ago, then that becomes did they get that wrong?
Yeah, so let's take a look at the first game on Saturday. The PNG Kumals up against the Fiji Bati. Should be a good clash, this one. PNG a bit slow out of the blocks last week. Naughty, but there's plenty of NRL talent in that side still. Nene McDonald, Zach Labert, Alex Johnson, Lockie Lamb.
Lockie Lamb, as you said. And again, we got the fact now that everyone's actually played a game is beneficial, I think, for this competition. We have the people that missed the first week. They looked a bit scratchy the second week. Teams that had an understanding of playing the first week and now they get to play. But, yeah, as you said, it's just going to be so big, so much excitement up there in Port Moresby. And I think you would imagine, wouldn't you, the Fiji side would get the victory? Would you think just in a little...
Yeah.
Just victory for him. Like Dream Buller, obviously in the fullback role, you did, scored multiple tries that first game that they played. And
well, they're both better than the Cook Islands, right? So this will be a closer contest.
Yes.
I spoke to Jason Demetrio last week for a story that ran in Saturday's Telegraph around some of the players, and he said Edwin and Pape would walk into any NRL side, the hooker for PNG. He's over in the Super League at the moment. Should be the first signing that the Chiefs make. To get him across because JD said that he is just ready for NRL.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously he's going to be over there in that English competition coaching, isn't he? And
London
obviously
in the second tier.
Second tier now. But the fact also he'd like to be the PNG coach, wouldn't he, when they do come in? And I think I remember speaking to him at one stage saying they need to make sure they recruit a lot of their own players and get the big culture back and develop their system that way rather than going out and buying a lot of the people who aren't from PG and don't have leadership for the local people to look at. So that's good that he can have that much knowledge. And obviously, as you said, there'll be a lot of ad-lib football in this game. I think the Pacifica champs, we've seen it in the last 2 weeks. It's just not the big structures of the NRL. It's a bit more individual flair, offload the play. I think it's the excitement of what the crowds are bringing to the game as well, to the venues. Like, it's just such a buzz, the whole venue for the full 80 minutes. I think the players are reaping the excitement of the crowd and just trying to push the pass and trying to get that try and just trying to do things that you wouldn't normally do in a club game because it's all about completion rate and build pressure and the competition points you're playing for.
Yeah, you mentioned Fiji. They've got plenty of NRL talent during Buller, Sania Taruva, Brandon Wakeham, Kurt Donahue, Tua Kamakamita, Tane Milne, Caleb Navale. So there's a few, but a couple of outs for him. Jethro Winakama needs a shoulder reconstruction, so the Canterbury winger got injured that in the opening, I think, 15 minutes of the game for Fiji in game one, and Michael Jennings is missing as well.
I was going to say Caleb Navale, Seagull, Noddy, be keen to keep an eye on him. And also, too, Kieran Foran, when he was on Sports Day, was talking about Cooper Bye and that year that they had together where he was training with the NRL side. Got on in the first game for his first test for PNG. So it'll be interesting to see how he backs up with this game too, coming up against a bigger pack, I guess, with the Fiji side. Yeah,
and that's right. I think the more you can play these elite games, these representative games, it actually gives you a taste to see where your level's at. The excitement of being able to put on your jersey and represent your heritage and your culture, I think, is a significant excitement of the Pac champs. And obviously, as this is growing, and the fans are just have been so excited to see the fans and just watching the pureness of the football. They just back themselves.
Kiwi Ferns up against the Jillaroos, Noddy. What do you expect from that clash?
This is going to be a really good clash. Obviously, we had the Jillaroos have a huge victory last week. This one will be a lot stronger game. Kiwi Ferns, who had success over the Jillaroos, I think it was last year, was it, or the year before, have had some success over Australia, a big victory. Good clash. The back line is full of speed, physicality, skill, and you know, obviously Jesse Southwell and Racine McGregor have two players that come up with any kicks that are available. They've got a short kicking game. They've got crossfield kicks. They've got long kicks. They've got individual flair. They've got dummies and excitement. So I think that'll be a really good matchup there to watch the two halves. But I don't think this will be all one way to the Jillaroos. I think the Kiwis will give them a huge test and certainly challenge them. And, you know, if there is a little upset, it probably wouldn't surprise me at the moment if they're able to get upset the Kiwis.
All right, let's run through the Kiwis and Tongan sides. I'll go through the Kiwis first. Chance Nickel-Klukstad at fullback, Jermaine Asako and Seb Chris on the wings. Matt Timokol and Casey McLean at center. In the centres, Dylan Brown, Kieran Foran. Other halves, James Fisher-Harris, Moses Leota up front with Phoenix Crossland. Britta Nikora, Azai Papali'i, Joey Tarpany. And then the bench is Tanamare Martin, Nafahu White, Aaron Clark and Xavier Willison. So you see from that squad, Renato Mulatalo out with a ruptured ACL, so a long-term injury for the Cronulla Sharks winger, which is why Seb Chris comes onto the wing. And Jerry Marshall-King out with a thumb injury, which sees Phoenix Crossland move from the bench to hooker and Tamare Martin onto the bench. So two big outs there for the Kiwis. Yeah, huge outs for the Kiwis. But a boost for Tonga, obviously. Jason Taumalolo back from that knee injury when he missed the Samoa game last week, the shutdown from Samoa. But Robert Toya and Stefano Utoikamano are both sidelined. Toya with a foot and Utoikamano concussion. So that allows the Panther star Paul Alamotti to come into the centres and Felice Kafusi move into the prop position with the Utoikamano sort of out of the game. So I think this will be a good clash. Obviously, there's a 17-point victory that Tonga need to have. If they want to play in the final next week, they'll need to beat the Kiwis by 17-plus points. They were a side last week that looked like they hadn't played together, hadn't trained together. Samoa were just so much better than them. But Samoa, I felt like should have beat New Zealand the first week when Dean Mariner drops the ball, open space, and then Dylan Brown was able to score off a Kieran Foran, great crossfield kick near the goalpost. So the first week for them, it was very close, and I just thought that the Tonga side were pretty poor last week. They'll respond this week, and the desperation that they have to win by 17-plus points means that they'll throw the ball around. That Kiwi bench, Tamare Martin, Nalfahu White, Aaron Clark, and Xavier Willison. Whew. That's a big second change coming on, Noddy. Yeah, it's a power. When you're chasing 17 points, yeah. You're staying clear of the three forwards and you're running at Tamari Martin for the whole game. Sorry, Tamara, you're going to make 50 tackles because you're not running at the other guys. But as you said, this is going to be a great competition. It's at Eden Park, obviously, which is the venue where we're going to have the Origin in 2027. So for anyone that's watching the Pac Champs this Sunday afternoon, keep an eye on the venue and the excitement and the atmosphere it can create, because that's where the Origin will be taken when that's signed off upon. It's a 9:30 local kickoff. Could we? I'm not saying this we should have. Origin. Yeah, Origin 9:30 local time. Could we see maybe a lead-up game? A rep game or something before it. 9:30 kickoff. 9:30 kickoff. Need to get them early. Well, maybe reward them a double header. No. Why not? I know it's Origin, but no, you won't be able to. There won't be a test match. What about if they play the women's state of Origin before it as well? Possibly, potentially, but there won't be a test match because NRL, because the NRL's still going. Yeah, but you're talking about you're talking the
representative football can occur when State of Origin's on. So if that's New South Wales playing Queensland, why couldn't Tonga and Samoa be playing?
Not in the current broadcast cycle. Not in 2027. No, it won't happen.
I was throwing a massive spanner in there, boys, but like that, having a later kickoff, like you could do something local.
Well,
they could get people there at 7:30 or 7 o'clock because and then get into the game bits and pieces. But it's a long afternoon. The wait,
night.
It's a big. You're ready for bed.
Player, Noddy. Like, how would you?
Well, you would have to literally get the first time you arrive in New Zealand, your body clock would have to get set to you're about to kick off at 9:30, so everything would just get pushed back. That day would be a long day, but you'd have to try and have a sleep bits and pieces, but you'd have to try and keep them up at night time the night before and get a custody. Your breakfast has to be 10 o'clock in the morning. Your lunch has got to be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You've got to be pushing everything back. I think that's what happened in Perth, wasn't it? Was it last year or the year before, where the Blues went over there a bit earlier than Queensland? And they really caught them off guard because of that extra preparation, because of that time difference. So I think you just set your body clock to knowing that you're kicking off at 9:30, and your body clock and your eating times and your training times get you accustomed to that with your 4 or 5 days of preparation in New Zealand.
If you've got a player in Origin and you're backing up Friday, it's nearly a write-off, isn't it? Like for them to try and back up on Friday night.
Well, it's probably nearly 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning before you're just about getting yourself to bed. Like it's not, and that's without going out.
We saw the flip side this year with the Warriors Penrith going to New Zealand, having to go to New Zealand.
Well, they took none of their players. They said, no, we won't take them. Yeah. And they still won, though. That's okay.
And then we don't have teams yet for the Kangaroos v England. The English side's going to be very interesting to see what sort of side they trot out. The Kangaroos reports were from Dean Ritchie over there in the UK that Pat Carrigan will go to lock for Zaya Yo, and either Keon Kalamatangi or Lindsay Smith would start at prop. And then Lindsay Smith will come into the 17 for Zaya Yo.
Is Dean Ritchie legitimately doing any work at the moment, or is he just junketing it around over there?
The tours are good.
Yeah, the tours.
There's the quote.
The tours are good. Obviously, that 03 tour we went on, Willie Mason was quoted saying, "This is the best Kentucky tour I've ever been on." So is that what you're saying the journos do as well? Is this tours are good?
Like, not as good as if you're an emu, because we actually have to do some.
You got to do some work, and you got deadlines.
We have some work to do, but
fair enough.
Provided there's no drama on the tour and you players behave yourselves and don't get arrested or something, then they're pretty fun to cover. Yeah, I've done a couple. It's
a good tour though, isn't it? Like three test series in England. First time it's happened for 22 years. There's a lot of excitement. We've got the next 2 venues of the test matches already have sold out before even the first test was available at in England Wembley, and Wembley. And the fact I think the Poms have to pick a different side. There's got to be 1 or 2 changes to the Poms side just to air a bit of excitement. Because how would you say that team could beat Australia when you know Australia's going to get better?
Yeah, and it's going to be Grant Atkins controlling the game, so I think that's going to open it up a fair bit more.
Faster game. It's
going to be.
Although didn't we get a weather forecast at some stage?
Yesterday we got a weather forecast
down there in Liverpool.
Cold and wet, and we're still saying they should hose the turf just to ensure that Reece Walsh can't be as electric.
Brooksy, someone else has got your idea, right? You've come up with the idea about 7 or 7:30 pre-game. Yep. We've got Andy sent us a text message saying 7 p.m. under 18s, North Island versus South Island.
Yeah, it's got
to be
the
competition, promoting the junior rugby league over there and the competition, and keep growing the excitement of when's the next team going to come in New Zealand.
Yes, Vossi was strong that the NRL may have missed a beat with the expansion regions. Here's what he had to say on Breakfast with Vossi and Brandy this morning.
No, I just want to go on record as saying, and while I'm sort of, I'd love the Papua New Guinea thing to be a success, but it's obviously a long burn. Like, it's a long burn where we're headed with that. But I just think we've missed the opportunity for a second New Zealand team right now. Gee, I reckon we are so not getting it. If you put a second New Zealand team in now, if you're talking about taking over rugby union or, really challenging rugby union, you put a second NRL team in New Zealand right now. And, the Dragons this week signed a kid, one of the best rugby union talents in the country, maybe ranked number 2. St George Illawarra have signed him.
Yeah.
Mate, just imagine if there's a second New Zealand team, a second pathway for Kiwi kids that are playing rugby union to get on that big stage of the NRL. I'm saying, to be honest, the next New Zealand team should have been
now.
Right, like Perth,
2027. Yeah.
Thoughts, Noddy?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's ready for an expansion. I think the fact that the Warriors have held up their end of the bargain so well and got so much excitement and so many fans, and we're looking at what the Pac champs are delivering I think there's obviously a new stadium being built in Christchurch. It's going to be 30,000 seat stadium. Has the ability to be opening in April 2026, so it would be ready for a brand new franchise. And then you got some rivalry with the Warriors. Then you got obviously some competition for the rugby union to try and keep their best players and have that success that the All Blacks used to keep everyone wanting to play rugby union. Now, obviously, suddenly there's some excitement of people coming to rugby league, and obviously TV deals for our game have allowed clubs to offer higher contracts and better money and better opportunities. But I think the fact that I agree with Vossi, I think the fact that we haven't even spoke about New Zealand being the new franchise yet is bizarre.
Well, a couple of things on it. Yeah, I agree that I'd love to see a second team in New Zealand. The Warriors are very anti it at the moment, right? So the Warriors I've spoken to Cam George about it. They don't think that they're in a good enough spot yet to sustain a second side in New Zealand. And secondly, there were bids for New Zealand.
Is that commercially not good enough, or is that?
I think it's everything. I think it's everything. I think it's a bit of everything. Commercially, they're flying. I think at the moment the best players they have been, but we can't forget how low they were during COVID, right? And how much of a remarkable job they've done, essentially by themselves, to rebuild that brand and get it to not only competing with the All Blacks, overtaking the All Blacks in ways, right? But there were bids. There were David Moffat, the NRL, former NRL boss, led a bid for Christchurch. And speaking to people at the NRL, the case studies, the money is just not there yet. It's just not there yet.
From the government over there, or
from the government,
New Zealand sponsorship, New Zealand tourism, all that type of stuff. So, well, again, like you talk about what comes with a new license as well. Wouldn't there be things from the NRL to suggest will help you, or how does it strengthen us, or how does it grow the game? Does the TV rights what it does by having another New Zealand team in the franchise, in the rights, give to that team as well? Obviously, I know those TV rights get shared amongst every club, so you can't just hand it all to one of them. But we ideally are going to get the 20 sides, aren't we? Is that what we think?
100%.
So
to
ideally, New Zealand do get a license, and whether it's not going to be 27 or 28 or 29, which is what Vossi's saying, that they've got it wrong maybe by going to PNG before we go to New Zealand. I think New Zealand would be ready for it. I think the fact they've got a stadium open, and I think the fact that they've got so many players in this Pacific Champ shows that our game is growing significantly into Pacific players that play our game. So if you give them a chance to go home or build some connection to be able to play out at home, I think it'll grow it. And as you said, it's a new franchise in New Zealand, so there's two in New Zealand then. Does it become a north and a south type of little competition for who's good? But again, as you said, the Warriors have been really good now, but what happens if they don't go good continuously? Performance is everything for any sports fan. Like, you've got to have a team that performs to a high level pretty regularly. Otherwise, you can go and find something else pretty quickly.
Yeah, and look, in an ideal world, I'm 100% of the belief that the 20th team should be in New Zealand.
So hang on a sec. So we've got 17 being...
18 will be... We've got 17 at the moment. 18 Perth, 19 PNG.
And 20 will be New Zealand.
Well...
And we're capped there. We're not doing any more in Queensland?
Well, if the two options is another team in New Zealand or another team in Queensland. I don't want another team in Queensland. I'd rather a second team in New Zealand. There's nowhere else to go.
Could Brisbane sustain a third team? Like, we've seen the Dolphins now playing 10 of their 12 games at Suncorp.
I don't see the point.
They're talking about being central Queensland, like in the middle. I think but isn't that where PNG are going to tap into that a little bit as well, and Cairns and bits and pieces? So you've already got that connection. So if we talk about where's that money going to come from, how does that sustain a huge crowd and a growth? Like, the Cowboys have done really, really well by a lot of their fans travel a long way to get to that stadium. I would think if we go to central Queensland, you're going to have a bigger problem than what the Cowboys have got.
Yeah, I think the best spot for a 20 side is New Zealand, and potentially, and this is something that the NRL did flirt with when they were looking at expansion, is a Pacifica side, right? So do we have a New Zealand base side that can play a game in Fiji as well, as a Pacifica brand?
It literally will be called a Pacifica brand. So it could go to Samoa for a game, it could go to Fiji for a game, it could go to Tonga for a game, but they are based out of New Zealand as a hub base, and that's their 9 games a year they're playing here. Correct. And they'll do one to this country for connection and culture, and then one to this country. But that also then means that club has got 3 or 4 different areas they can sell sponsorship to, sell fan numbers to. get growth from, get kids that want to come and play for that and support that team.
Wouldn't it be key to be based somewhere? Like, I totally understand that, but like,
No, you're based in New Zealand. No, you're based in New
You've got to
Zealand.
be Christchurch,
No,
right?
yeah,
Or you've got to be
100%.
Wellington.
No,
you can't
100%,
be.
no.
You can't be
you're not the
the.
Gypsies. No, you're playing. No, you're based in 100% based in your New Zealand-based sides that takes definitely the only Pacific nation that could have a game at the moment is Fiji.
Yeah.
That's the only one with the amenities up to date to play a game, an NRL level standard game there. So I'm saying play 1 or 2 games there. Potential. This is all potential ideas, right? Because they looked at it. They looked at the Pacifica Bears was a moniker that they were flirting with the NRL. So they've been through all these case studies at the moment, and unfortunately, New Zealand just didn't stack up.
Yeah, the thing, why I was saying that is because the Dolphins were meant to represent Brisbane, Redcliffe, Moreton Bay, and then go up Central Queensland, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, this is a Brisbane side. Like, they're not called Brisbane, but they're Brisbane. That's where they're making their money. And this is why you can't have a team that's going to float around. They need to be somewhere. They need to resonate with an area to start with, because who are you if you're going to represent 6 teams? Like, we're having that problem with the West Tigers and Dragons as well. Like, we're playing some games here, we're playing some games there, but where do you represent? And these teams, both those teams are going to have to stick a flag somewhere, because it's actually probably hurting them. You see the Dragons crowds are down. Like, at the bottom of, they were lower than Sharkies this year.
I feel like this is different because you looked at the Dragons where you've got existing fan bases, right? And those things are hard to work out. Where if you're a Christchurch-based side and you're getting, you train there, you fully play there, you're getting 10 games there, and then you lose 1 to Fiji. That ain't hurt. That's not hurting it. That's not hurting the fan base.
The other thing I can say, growing up in a community that didn't have a team, and Newcastle Knights coming to competition when I was 12 years of age, it was the biggest thing that happened to me as a dream for wanting to be a football player. So to get something in your own region because you've never had it can be huge.
Yeah, agreed.